welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Angel and today I'll be sharing some more budget-friendly DIYs. Before we get started, as always, if you enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up, and if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel and click that little notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of my future videos.
For this first project, we're going to be using one of these wood planks from Dollar Tree. Now you can choose any of their thick wood planks, it's up to you. I just chose this one, and we are going to be making a sign hanger or a wreath hanger. That is also up to you. You'll also need one of Dollar Tree's plungers. You can see I went ahead and cut off the bottom of it, but that is also optional. You don't have to. Now I am going to go ahead and pre-drill a hole through my plank and into my plunger, and that's how I am going to put this together. Now if you don't have a drill, you can of course use some wood glue. I would highly recommend using wood glue if you do decide to glue this, but I am just going to go ahead and screw this together. Once I had this put together, I did go ahead and give this just one coat of my white chalk paints. You don't have to do 2 coats, 1 coat was plenty, and I kind of liked that some of the wood was showing through, but that's up to you and you can choose any color you want. Then I'm going to start working on my sign. I picked up this little wood sign from Dollar Tree, but like I said, you could also use this as a wreath hanger to change out for all the seasons and holidays. But for my sign, I'm going to be using this welcome fall sign and some of these fall leaves that are from Dollar Tree. The little welcome fall thing is from last year, but I'm sure they'll have them this year. And also I'm going to be using some of Dollar Tree's new ribbon from this year, and you'll see that I start out painting this welcome fall white. I do change it as I'm going, which is just pretty typical of me. Sometimes I can't decide the colors that I want to use. At first I was going to stain the sign, but then I decided I wanted the sign white, so I have to go back in and change that. For the leaves, I am using this apple barrel harvest orange color, and I did give those 2 coats of that. And as you can see here, I did go ahead and paint the sign white, and then I'm going to change that welcome fall by using some of my antique Waverly wax, and I'm just going to use a baby wipe to go over that. While I'm letting that dry, I'm going to start working on my Christmas side of the sign, and I'm going to be using this little Believe sign from last year and also some of these snowflakes from last year at Dollar Tree as well. And of course, I just picked out some Christmassy ribbon that I had on hand, so I'll be using that for this project too. For this side, I at least knew the colors that I wanted to use. I wanted to paint this Believe sign in this beautiful red color. I think it's actually called Red Apple, and it's just a darker, nicer tone of red, I think anyway. But like I said, you can use any color you want. Now, I did realize that the E's on this sign didn't have the little cutout, so I went ahead and used a paint marker to fix the E's on there. And then for the snowflakes, I am using some antique Waverly wax to go over those just with a wet paintbrush. And then I'm going to dry brush white over top of these. As I was about to start putting my signs together, I decided that I wanted to make a faux frame around these signs. So I'm just using some Dollar Tree painter's tape and then some of that antique Waverly wax to make a frame on each side of my sign. And for that top bit that is rounded, I just hand painted it as best I could and tried to stay straight. Then all that was left to do is just go ahead and start putting my sign together. Now I am using wood glue for this project instead of hot glue. You can use hot glue if you want. I just really like using wood glue when I can. I just feel like it holds better, and also it's just not as messy, and it's a little easier to put these small pieces onto the sign. Now, if you've ever wondered why I don't put tons of bows on my stuff. Number one, I am just not really good at making bows, never have been, even though I know exactly how to make bows, but for some reason I just can't get it. So I made a bow as best I could and I put it on this side, and then I'm gonna start working on the Christmas side of the sign. And I pretty much just did the exact same thing as the fall side. And to finish off the sign holder, I am just using one of these J hooks. Now you could use a picture hanger on this or any other little hook that you had. This is just what I had and it worked out great for this project. Then to finish it off, I'm just adding back in the twine onto the sign. And here's how it turned out. For this next project, I wanted to make some pumpkin candle holders, so I went to Dollar Tree and I picked up 2 similar pumpkins and then 1 pumpkin that's just a little bigger, and I'm gonna start by taking out all those stems and then I'm gonna paint these pumpkins. At first, I wanted to paint the larger pumpkin this kind of very light, subtle orange color, but of course, me being me, I changed my mind and I ended up painting it more of a rusty orange color. But for the small pumpkins, I did like the color, I just didn't like the shininess of them. So I did just use some of my matte antique white paint to go over those. So I did pick up 2 of these candlesticks from Dollar Tree, and I'm gonna just make 2 holes in the top of the antique white pumpkins so that I can fit these candles down into there. Then I'm just going to hot glue one of the smaller pumpkins on top of the larger one, and I'm going to be using some of these Dollar Tree florals, and I'm just going to put those down in the hole kind of and arrange them the way I want before sticking the candles down into there. And I'm going to do this on both this candle holder and then just on that smaller one as well, and here's how they turned out. For this project, I'm going to be using some of this really thick macrame cord. I actually got this from my grandmother. It's super old and I thought I could definitely use it for this project. Now you could definitely just buy something from Walmart or even use Dollar Tree rope for this project. Now all I did to start this project was I just grabbed a bowl that I had and I covered it with some saran wrap. Then all I'm gonna do is just go ahead and start hot gluing this rope together. Now I'm trying very carefully not to get any hot glue onto the bowl, but it is a little bit more difficult with this rope. It's not as thick as the Dollar Tree nautical rope, so I did end up getting some of my hot glue onto the bowl, but that's okay because I was able to just pull the saran wrap off at the very end. So once I got it started, I did lay it on top of the bowl, and then I'm just going to continue wrapping my rope all the way around this bowl to make another bowl out of this macrame cord. And again, I'm just hot gluing the rope. You can see I'm kind of pointing it to the underside of the rope because I'm just trying to hot glue the pieces of rope together and not gluing this to the bowl. Once I was finished, this is what it looked like, and now I'm just gonna have to remove the bowl from here. Then, like I said, the saran wrap did get a little bit of hot glue on it, so I did end up cutting it down, and then I can just kind of tear the rest of it out of there. Now, originally I was going to make a pumpkin bowl out of this, but I think it ended up looking more like an acorn, but that's okay. So I'm just going to be using one of these little sticks that come in the bags from Dollar Tree, and then I'm going to make a top for this bowl. All I'm doing here is just going ahead and starting the rope with some hot glue around the bottom of this little stick. Then I'm just going to keep wrapping that rope around and hot gluing as I go until I make it big enough to fit as a lid for the bowl. Once I got it big enough, I am just going to start hot gluing to make a little lip for the top of the lid. And then finally, for this project, I decided to add these little wood cutout leaves from Dollar Tree just to give it a little something extra. And here is how it turned out. Like I said, it came out more looking like an acorn, but I think this would be so cute to maybe hold some candies or even in a bathroom. For this final project, I wanted to make a pumpkin pillow, so I'm just going to be using some of this Dollar Tree fabric. It is one roll, and I went ahead and flipped it inside out, and then I'm going to be using this wood pumpkin cutout from Dollar Tree as well, and I'm just tracing around with a Sharpie, and then I'm going to cut that out. Then I'm just going to go ahead and flip these so that the right side is facing outward. And I'm going to be using some of this fabric fusion. You can, of course, just use hot glue if you want, but since I already had this on hand and I had never tried it out before, I figured I would use it for this project. So I am just going to be gluing the outside edges of this pumpkin, except for I am leaving the top open. Now, this fabric fusion did have to set for about 2 hours, but if you're using hot glue, you could go ahead and start stuffing this. But since I had to wait a little bit, I decided to go ahead and make a little patch for this pumpkin. So I'm just using some of Dollar Tree's burlap and their stencil, and then one of my paint markers, and I am spelling out fall on this piece of burlap, and I'm going to use this as a patch for my pumpkin pillow. Once my glue was dry, I did go ahead and stuff my little pumpkin pillow. I'm just using an old pillow that I had laying around, and I'm going to take the stuffing from that. But you can, of course, get some stuffing from Walmart. You could use Dollar Tree cotton balls, or you could even just stuff this with grocery bags. But once I had it stuffed, I went ahead and used some more of that fabric glue. Of course, you can see it was a little bit more difficult with the pumpkin being stuffed. This is not instant glue, so I did have to use some of my Dollar Tree clamps to hold this while it dried, and I also just went ahead and glued on the patch. And finally, for this project, I just wanted to use a little bit of Dollar Tree twine to make a little bow at the top to distinguish between the stem and the pumpkin, and here is how it turned out. That's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.